Greetings and welcome. We have people here from far and wide. We have people here from Colorado. We have people here from Iowa. Kurt Reed flew in from China. Kurt, where are you? Kurt Reed. Oh, he's up getting a beer. What else? Well, thank you so much. Where else? Anybody else from out of town? A lot of folks. California. Wow, this is a big deal. Thank you so much for coming. My name's Tim McManus, and somehow I got voted to be the MC tonight. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and the guys that I play with. Welcome to the fourth induction ceremony of the Topeka Tennis Association Hall of Fame. First, I'd like to thank our hosts, Genesis and Darrell Greenstreet, for making this newly renovated, beautiful facility available to us tonight. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Darrell. Now, this building was built back in 1974, 44 years ago, by two of our inductees, Bob and Norma Jones, Gary Stearns, and some other partners. Now, I'm originally from New York, and we refer to Yankee Stadium as the house that Ruth built. Well, tonight, thanks to their vision, we're in the house that Jones built. Over the years, this facility has changed hands a few times, and I'd also like to recognize some people who are in attendance tonight for sustaining the Jones vision. In 1980, Kent Garlinghouse stepped in and purchased Wood Valley. Is Mr. Garlinghouse here? Thank you so much, Mr. Garlinghouse. I don't know if the place really turned a profit, but Mr. Garlinghouse thought it was a good thing for Topeka. From 1996 to 2008, Kent and Rhonda Lammers took the helm. So on behalf of the entire Topeka tennis community, I'd like to publicly thank you, Bob and Norma, Mr. Garlinghouse, Kent and Rhonda, for building, preserving, and nurturing Wood Valley, now Genesis for us all. So many friendships, relationships, romances, family times together have evolved over the years thanks to all of your efforts. You've literally made a tremendous impact on the lives of thousands of people here in Topeka, and we are forever in your debt. The purpose of the Topeka Tennis Association Hall of Fame is to honor and recognize players, coaches, and volunteers who've achieved great things or have contributed to the greatness of Topeka tennis. And boy, is Topeka tennis great. We have an award-winning, beautiful public facility in Kossover Tennis Center. Our host tonight, Genesis, and the aforementioned group have enabled us to play tennis year-round. Consequently, Topeka, for a town our size, has had way more than its share of state champions, college All-Americans, and even a few who have played on the Pro Tour. So tonight we celebrate tennis and four of the individuals who have helped make it great. Before we get going with our program, I'd like to recognize a few individuals. Our Hall of Fame committee, who made tonight possible, includes Mark Nordstrom, Greg Lutz, Rogers Brazier, Rick Peterson from the Capital Journal, and especially Kent Lammers and Diana Chrisman, who did the lion's share of the work here tonight. Our Topeka Tennis Association board, who fights with the county to keep Kossover beautiful, runs the Jayhawk, the best tournament in the Midwest, provides junior tennis scholarships and programming, and makes events like this happen. So board members, if you're here, would you kind of wave your hand? Thank you for all you do for Topeka tennis. And some of the past inductees into our Hall of Fame include legends Kevin Hedberg, Mark Nordstrom, Sherry Norris, Joel Hoffman, Danielle Knipp, Junior Brown, who's here tonight, Randy McGrath, Richard Meacham, John Grantham, Tim Clark, Jennifer Subert, and Larry Reed. I think we have a couple. Mark is here and Junior here. Would you guys stand up and wave to the crowd? And now tonight, Bob and Norma Jones, Jeff Benson, and Connie Robertson join them. Our first inductees are Bob and Norma Jones. Let me find my script. The Topeka Tennis Association recognizes the vision, dedication, and personal sacrifice made by Norma and Bob Jones for Topeka tennis. In 1974, the citizens of Topeka benefited greatly by the construction of an indoor tennis facility that provided the foundation for our rich tennis history. This facility inspired many Hall of Fame players, coaches, donors, and was the real beginning of the Topeka Tennis Hall of Fame. Bob and Norma are absolutely wonderful and caring people. How caring, you ask? Funny you should ask. Let me tell you a little bit of a story about Bob Jones. Years ago, a 14-year-old boy loved tennis and wanted to get a junior membership to this wonderful new facility. It cost $14. He didn't have $14. His family needed the $14 for food. But his stepfather suggested that he get on his bike and ride over here from East Topeka, which he did. And perhaps maybe he could get a junior membership by working it off. Well, Bob Jones was laying brick around the pool in the back when he was approached by this scrawny little kid. Bob took a liking to him and put him to work. This young man ended up doing all kinds of jobs around Wood Valley for years. He ended up playing tennis for Washburn University. After college, he went to work for the company that purchased Wood Valley from the Joneses. He ended up with a minority ownership, and he and his wife ran Wood Valley for years. Just recently, this scrawny little kid was named president and CEO of the company he went to work for out of college, MC Industries, now Polo Custom Products. And that young man's name, some of you might know, is Kent Lammers. So Bob Jones, you have to know that you changed his life, and by building this facility, you changed the lives of so many people. Thank you very much. Now presenting Bob and Norma Jones into the Topeka Tennis Association Hall of Fame is their daughter, Shelley Crane.
Good evening. I am Shelley Crane, younger sister to Marty and Karen, the Jones kids. We are thrilled tonight that our entire family is here together, our kids, grandkids, cousins, dear, dear friends, and our Topeka family of friends for Topeka Tennis to be able to honor Mom and Dad. Now, you may have noticed part of the dynamic duo is not with us. Mom had an unfortunate spill earlier this week. She's fine. She's banged up and bruised up and grumpy, but she's fine. She's in a bit of a neck brace and didn't really want to come out in that, but she is so honored and touched by this and sends her love. And if you're bored and you want to go see her out at Aldersgate, she would love a visitor. Part of the story has been told, but I think for those of us that are here tonight, you can call this building whatever you want, but we all know it as Wood Valley Racquet Club. And Wood Valley really would not have been here without the hard work and the tenacity and the patience and the passion of our parents, Mom and Dad, Bob and Norma, whatever. So I thought you'd like to know the genesis of the Wood Valley story. Wasn't that good? It was Dad and Mom's 25th high school reunion from Highland Park High School. And over a cocktail or two, a friend of Dad's, Dave McFarland, said, Topeka needs a tennis club. Now, mind you, at the time, I don't think anybody in our family played tennis. But a few cocktails later, and somehow that grew, and with the help of Gary Stearns and Clyde Meacham and Chris Hutton, suddenly this conversation became a reality. It started with a construction building out in the meadow, painted with the cool Wood Valley logo in bright yellow and green. I think Dad was hoping people on the highway would drive by and wonder what was going on. And before you know it, there were 2 outdoor courts and a gazebo, and that was the beginning of it. When we were kids, I think we used to run around and we'd tell our friends, you know, our parents built a racket club. I gotta show off. No, they built the racket club with their own hands. And that's the part that I'm so proud of. If you were lucky enough to know the lobby in its previous iteration, all the barn wood that adorned the walls, that was procured by Topeka's first architectural salvage company, the Jones Stearns Group. It may or may not have been procured legally. We would get in the Buick station wagon on a Saturday morning, and barns just appeared out of rural Wabaunsee County and rural Shawnee County, and we would just take them, board by board. I remember more than once Dad tying a rope to the bumper of the station wagon to a center post of the barn and just dropping it. And so the interior decoration was a la Bob Jones. Once the indoor courts were built, our visions turned to outdoors, and we decided a pool really would be a good next thing. And so the pool became a slow reality, but as Tim already alluded to, I'm not sure who thought brick pavers are good for a pool deck, but they are still there today. And every brick that was laid out back and the pathway out that Kent helped lay was also procured from different places that just would have stacks of bricks around. We just got them. But Mom and Dad and Gary and Kent laid every brick by hand. And not only did they lay them once, but each summer you would then see them going out to find the nasty bricks that had somehow sunk or lost their levelness. And they would be sitting there in their swimsuits with a screwdriver lifting up the bricks, putting in new sand and putting them down so they were level every summer. And they're still there. The other thing that's fun, the gazebos that are out back, he built. Favorite building construction material, railroad ties, barn wood and brick. And so it's really fun that they built what was around them. But not only did they help build the facility, what they really built was a home for Topeka tennis and for the community of people in Topeka that wanted to play tennis and the friendships that have lasted. I've seen folks here that I've known since I was a real pain in the biscuits 9-year-old. And it's fantastic because it's still a beautiful community. And the thing that I think we're most proud of is Mom and Dad helped build that community for Topeka. And so I am beyond proud to honor Norma and Bob Jones in the Topeka Tennis Hall of Fame.
Bob, on behalf of the Topeka Tennis Association, welcome to the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Shelley. I would say great job as well. Our next inductee is Jeff Benson. Jeff was the Kansas 6A singles state champion in 1986. He was a Prince High School All-American in 1986. He had a Missouri Valley top 5 ranking back then and a top 100 national ranking. He was an Iowa State varsity top 6 from 1986 to 1990. Jeff finished with an 18-14 singles mark and played number 1, number 3, number 4, and number 5 positions through 1988. He was a top-flight doubles player, took third place in the Big Eight #2 doubles in 1989. He was the Iowa State captain in 1990, and Jeff's been a USPTA elite professional since 1992 up in Iowa, and was the USPTA Iowa Professional of the Year back in 2002. Jeff Benson. Now, before we get going with Corey's introduction, there's a story about Jeff. You didn't think you were going to get away with not having a story.
I was hoping for a story.
Well, it's not quite as poignant as the Kent Lammers story, but here we go. Our pal Greg Lutz used to work with Jeff when he was 13 years old or so. He was taking Jeff and a player to be named later to a tournament in Springfield. They stopped to get gas on the way home, and the boys went to get something to drink. Greg went to pay but couldn't find them. Upon further search, he found them at the magazine rack reading Playboy. Well, yeah, they weren't reading it, they were looking at it. Well, obviously, Greg had no choice since they handled this publication already but to buy it. Really? They got back to the car, and somehow the Playboy ended up in the back seat. Greg didn't hear a word from them on the rest of the way home. Somehow, Jeff's mom, Jan, found out about this and has never forgiven Greg since. That's the bad news. The good news was that Jeff beat 2 ranked players that weekend. So now to introduce Jeff Benson in the Topeka Tennis Hall of Fame is his former coach, Corey Wilson.
All kinds of motivation there, Jeff. Yeah. Well, my name is Corey Wilson, and some of you may not know me. I grew up in the Topeka tennis community, and I just wanted to take this time to say thank you to the Topeka Tennis Association for that opportunity. I, like many of the balding people in here, grew up on that little slab of concrete and lake hole at 8th and Orleans that was called Hughes Courts. That was our home, and it was our sand lot, and it was everything that you can possibly put into it. You can't even, if you didn't experience it, you can't describe it. It's just an amazing place. I go back to the time when those courts were hot and you could smell the lake hole and the patchwork that was creatively done by the city from time to time, and the little gray tennis shack that was there. The tree that guarded the beehive along 8th Street, and the ring top pop cans that you cut your fingers on, and the tin Wilson Penn and Dunlop tennis cans where water tasted better than you could ever have it because of the ice in it. That's what I remember about my childhood, and that was due in large part to organizations like the Topeka Tennis Association, where I got my first membership, and friends that I have in this room today did as well. I came from a broken home in my teenage years, and so wild times ensued, and were it not for names like Hoffman and Reed and Hedberg and Nordstrom and Lynch and Thomas and Kossover, I'm not sure what would have happened to me. It's a good opportunity to say sorry, Connie, since she was running the facility from time to time. But they're more than just names to me, they're my family. And I played tennis with those guys, and a lot of them are here in this Hall of Fame, but I guess that goes to show that I am the poster child for those who can't teach or coach. And that's how I met little Jeffrey Benson. I was about 150 yards that away on a tennis court one morning in the summer when this little boy came bounding on that little wood-slatted sidewalk that took out to the courts, and he proudly announced to me that his name was Jeffrey. And he was unique from the beginning. He was so tiny. He was such a tiny kid. The racket was as big as he was. But even when he was that little, you could tell he had an eye for the game. He had a gift for it, and he had an excitement about it as well. And he made it fun for all of us. He was just the cutest little guy. And I used to tell people that little Jeffrey Benson made you think that he knew exactly where the party was. And he stayed in my head and my heart all that time. I would later coach tennis at Topeka West. And I was thrilled when Jeff became a Topeka West Charger. He, again, was little, and our team was tall. Our team was probably 6'1", 6'2", average height, and there was little Jeffrey Benson playing amongst the trees as a ninth grader. And I knew he could play, and I knew he would play for us. I just didn't know where. I knew he couldn't play doubles because I knew he just wasn't strong enough to handle that yet as a ninth grader. But I thought he could play singles, and boy did he. He played #1 singles for us as a ninth grader and did a marvelous job. Won the region and moved on into the state tournament, where I did perhaps my worst coaching job ever that I can remember. And that was in the seating meeting. And the problem was, as Connie can deal, she'll understand that, and anybody that's ever run a tournament, you can't run and coach at the same time. It's very difficult. And I just lost track of Jeff in the seating meeting because I was too busy running it. Jeff got a horrible draw, and he didn't go very far. Well, needless to say, after that, I'm sure his parents had, who, by the way, were as nice to me as people could ever give support to a young coach. They were always there and always supportive. But they, I think, probably had their confidence shaken in me, and they decided that maybe it might be in Jeff's best interest to try something daring. And so Jeff did. He moved to the Newcomb Tennis Academy in Texas as a sophomore in high school, and he lived there. And he lived amongst some outstanding tennis players. But what a leap of faith that was for his family and for Jeff to take on that responsibility. And, I just didn't know how well he'd do. Well, he did very well. And he was getting closer and closer to the dream that he had. And his dream was I never heard him say he wanted to be a tennis pro. He just wanted to play Division I tennis. That was so important to him. He wanted to be a Division I tennis player. And so Jeff was well on his way at John Newcomb's ranch to becoming a Division I player. He was beating people and making headway and getting stronger and doing all the right things. And then fate took over. He blew out his knee. And just to be prepared for his junior year where things would happen and people would recognize him, he blew out his knee. And so he came home. He came back to Topeka, and he started back at Topeka West, and he began to recover. And as devastating as an injury as that was now, imagine it back in 1985. It just was almost a career killer for a Division I chance. But Jeff stuck with it, and he still kept the party attitude that he always had, which was, I'm going to be positive as I can be about that. And so he returned home to Topeka West. And I need to keep straight on my notes here so I don't ramble. But he did everything his doctors told him to do. He was so positive, and he was so disciplined in trying to get things back. He wouldn't push things that he wasn't supposed to do, and he focused on the boring task of what he could do. He did soft movements forward, soft backward movements, soft diagonal movements forward, soft backward movements, always the same, over and again, never doing anything he shouldn't, no extra movements, and most of that on a tennis court with no racket and no ball. And eventually, that spring, he was allowed a racket and a ball, and he would continue the same thing. When he was released to go full speed, he still did the same thing over and over. Short ball attack movements and backpedaling, nothing else. No overheads, nothing. No points, just those movements. It was remarkable, really, to watch. And all the while, this kid was as positive as he could be and cheered our team on as if he had never left it. Late summer, before Jeff's senior year, saw him preparing to go back to Newcomb's Ranch, and I was happy for him. He'd worked so hard. He'd get a chance to reclaim what he'd lost in an environment that he knew well and where he could focus on that high level of tennis again. I wished him well whenever I'd see him in the summer, and then came a chance cup of coffee with my dad. And my dad, if you know my dad, always would ask the most bizarre questions at the most bizarre time. And he asked me one night. He said, "Have you ever asked Jeff if he wanted to stay and play? Have you ever asked Jeff if he wants to play for Topeka West?" And I said, "Don't be ridiculous. Why would he want to do that? Why would he want to stay here when he knows what he can do?" So I went home and I thought about it, and I called Jeff and I said, "Jeff, just want you to know, if you want to play for us, we'd love to have you. I've never said that to you." And his response about floored me. He said, "I didn't think you wanted me." He said, "I didn't think you guys wanted me." I was stunned. And needless to say, I told him we wanted him. And the dividends of Jeff Benson on our team his senior year would last us for many years. That's not to say that Jeff hasn't had his moments. I don't have a Playboy story, but I have one that tennis players will appreciate. One in particular that I recall was when my friend Joel Hoffman's dad died. And Joel was home, of course, for the service, and a few of Joel's teammates from the University of Houston accompanied him. And one of them was a Nigerian who stopped by Kosovo. Joel asked, he said, "Can we come by and see your practice?" And I said, "Sure, come on over, and we'd love to." I said, "I'd love for Jeff to meet you and see you again." And so the Nigerian took interest in watching Jeff play, and wouldn't you know it, it was when Jeff was being silly and he wasn't really putting himself to too much effort. And the Nigerian came up to him and politely went up to him and said, "You know, you have to give it your all the time in practice. That's what practice is for. Give it your all the time." Jeff politely said, "Okay." And after Joel and the Nigerian left, Jeff came up to me and said, "Sheesh, you'd think that guy played at Wimbledon or something." And I said, "Well, yeah, Jeff, that was Naduka Odazar. And he was a quarterfinalist in the singles draw at Wimbledon last year." And Jeff didn't say a word, but that's one of the few times that Jeff was ever really overly cocky with me. Jeff helped our girls team that fall as a manager his senior year, which was a huge lift for them and him because he started dating one of them, I think. He was stronger and he was more disciplined, and his shot selection was incredible, and he was still using that same footwork pattern that he'd done in rehab. And I saw short angle approach winners from like no other kid I've ever seen. And because he caught everything on the rise, he could just as easily deceptively change direction and send the ball screaming straight down the line. His anticipation had created a quickness in his game that his body didn't really have. And it ended points before he got to the net. And he would go on to win the state title in a dominating style, like few I've ever seen before or since. And he would be named a Prince All-American. And he would eventually get to play Division I tennis. It's a storybook ending for a young man and for our tennis program too. For our kids that spring began to do that same approach footwork drill with him, backpedaling, side, up, diagonal, over and over again. First as an opportunity to do something with Jeff, and later on because we realized it worked. And Topeka West won 10 straight doubles championships, state championships, using that same drill that Jeff had taught us. Story continues today for Jeff Benson, or Benny, as many now call him. He is a successful and innovative in the tennis industry in his adult life. He's a family man, a great husband and father, and I can tell that he's never lost that smile, that heart, that desire to make others feel good about themselves, and his smile tells me that he still knows where the party is. God gave little Jeffrey Benson a tremendous gift, a loving family who from the very beginning believed in him no matter what, who backed him no matter what, and in turn it was easy to see that he wanted them to be proud of him, and he would work hard to share everything that he could with them. It's in his DNA. He was that way for Topeka West, he's that way for his beloved Cyclones, and I'm sure he's that way at his home club. He's a true ambassador of the game and one of my many heroes because he gets it. It's about people. It's about heart. The game will take care of itself. Tomorrow will take care of itself, but we take care of the moment and we can take part in our own journey. It's my deep honor and blessing that I present Jeffrey, Jeff, Benny, Mr. Jeff Benson to the Topeka Tennis Hall of Fame.
Wow. There are some stories I don't remember at all. I'm more upset about the Playboy thing. Yeah. And it's wild here. I'm on court 1 here at Wood Valley. I've played here a few times. The court seems a little bit slower right now than it was back in the day, but I'm certainly honored to be here. Corey, thank you. That was just a wonderful introduction. I told him I can't follow that, I hope. So apologies. I'm so deeply touched for this honor to be included with the people such as Joel Hoffman, who I admired so much, Kevin Hepburn, Sherry Norris, Randy McGrath, and the list goes on. I'm just honored to be listed amongst everybody. Also, I would like to congratulate and to be honored with Bob and Nora Jones and Connie Robertson. It's an honor to be inducted with you today, so very nice. It's been a good day. When I got the call from Ken, I was shocked. I thought, I had a temper, believe it or not, back in the day. I thought some of those early racket incidents might sway people to say, maybe not, but I have changed quite a bit since those days, but so honored. You kind of think back on the people who meant the most to you and how you got from point A to point B, but the first person that got me into the game, believe it or not, I don't know if you'll remember my grandfather, Earl Flickinger. He played many years out here on these courts. He stopped playing probably in his mid-'80s, but God, he loved the game. We were renting a house back in the mid-'70s, and we had this, while we were building a house at Lake Javaro, we had this house we were renting. It happened to have an old beaten down tennis court that had a backyard. Grandfather was teaching me how to play. And it's hilarious. He'd take me to church on Sunday morning. God, I don't know why I'm emotional, but it's crazy. Take me to breakfast. Then he said, Jeff, you're gonna hit the ball X amount of times against this backboard. You're gonna hit it 20 times in a row. Done. So I practiced all week to do it. Took me to breakfast the next Sunday. Boom. Breakfast where we ate today, Hanover Pancake House. Pretty good place. And hit the ball 21 times. I think it was 21. I beat it against that backboard. You know what he says? No, no, no. I told you to hit it from here, not from here. I've never been so ticked in my life. I mean, furious. So I had to work all week long to hit it from his spot that he wanted me to hit. So we did the process again. Bingo. I hit it more than 21 times, and okay, I guess you did good enough, and got me into this great game. So kudos to my grandfather. So wonderful, wonderful man. That was cool. I too grew up at Hughes Park. Love that place. I got in some mischief. Yeah, okay, so hypothetically I with some buddies, we went to Quick Chop and looked at some magazines that weren't appropriate. I hypothetically, but totally hypothetically. But I was hooked on the game. I remember my first 3 tournaments I ever played in was against this kid. You might know him, Corey. Don Wilson. You know Don? Yeah. For some reason, I don't know if the draws were fixed, but I had to draw Don Wilson the first round every freaking first 2 tournaments. 6-0, 6-0. Got beat 6-0, 6-0. And then magically in the 3rd tournament, I drew Scott Hayden, is a very good player. It was a 4-hour match. It had to have been. 3rd set, we played it out. 9-point tiebreaker, if you all remember 9-point tiebreakers. It was 4-4. I hit a lob high. Scott had to climb the fence. He barely missed it. I won my first match, 5-4 in the breaker. And I think it was like 1977 or 78. And was elated, won my first match. And guess who I had to draw the next match? 2nd round. Don Wilson. Awesome. 6-0, 6-0. Got beat. But I was hooked. I was in. Absolutely loved it. So I was blessed. I watched and marveled at all these players that played at Hughes. I saw Joel Hoffman play. I saw Randy McGrath play. I saw all these amazing, amazing tennis players. I couldn't believe that the amount of tennis was at that place. The Junior Tennis League program was phenomenal. I remember ball boying for a finals at the Jayhawk Open. It was Sam Fotopoulos playing Bob Muir. Bob Muir, I don't think had anything to do with me at all, but Sam Fotopoulos did. He was the kindest person I've ever met. As a young boy, I looked up to people like that. And more importantly, he played for the University of Oklahoma. That was a big strike. Go Sooners, right, family? Boomer Sooner. But he was so gracious. He won the match. Kindest guy I've ever met. And I thought, this is it. I'm hooked on this sport. Hughes is special. Hughes was a really neat place. And as Wood Valley is, it just brings back great memories. So, Dad, this is where you probably need to take your heart medication, because I'm going to list the people that helped me out with tennis lessons and so forth. The list is long, so don't calculate how much all this would be. Kevin Hedberg. I don't know if Kevin Hedberg's here tonight or not, but gosh, legend here in this town. He was always willing to help me out anytime I needed some help on a stroke. He was always kind. The amount of people he has helped here in Topeka, it's pretty cool. He's a marvelous person and a marvelous ambassador to Topeka tennis. Mark Nordstrom, I know, is here. Mark and I battled a couple times on the tennis court, and I see you over there, Mark. Mark, you were, I told you earlier today that you were gracious to me and always willing to help. We practiced a lot at Washburn, and we played a lot. For some reason, my racket probably flew out of my hands as well playing against you. You were always more gracious. You were always just as gracious in losing and beating me. And you're way more gracious than I was after a loss. And you were just an ambassador to this city. And I know you've done wonderful things here. Kevin Hamilton, who I wasn't expecting Kevin to come out here. I was not. He called me a week ago, congratulating me for this honor. And I said, God, Kevin, come on out. You can stay with us. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't know if you all know Kevin. He's director of tennis at Topeka Country Club. He's done so many things for Topeka, so many things personally. He got me into the tennis business. I got my USPTA. He was the president of the USPTA Missouri Valley Division. Got me into that. So I've been a USPTA member since '92 because of you. Our first few summers teaching were at Topeka Country Club because of Kevin. He took me to the most fun trip to Kalamazoo, Michigan, to the zoo, the National Hard Courts. very cool. We laughed all the way up. Didn't laugh all the way down. It wasn't so successful with some of my matches. Again, I think the draws were fixed, but I'm sure they were fixed. But we had a blast. Kevin, you are one of my best friends. You mean a lot to me. For you coming out here is awesome. Next is David Kossover. I don't know if y'all remember David. Wonderful. There was no better teacher, tactician than anybody I've ever been around. I have been around this business playing tennis since I was little. I've seen a lot of tennis pros. He knew this game inside and out. Nobody knew the game better than him. I still teach the kids I teach. I use his stuff all the time. His double strategy is unparalleled. The way he can motivate people. He is, he's terrific, and I wish he was here because he meant a lot to me. Next is Corey. I got to say this story real quick about Corey. Corey, I had to verify this with you on the phone, but out on court 1 at Wood Valley, I was taking a lesson from Corey Wilson, and I was little. I don't know how young I was, probably 10 years old, but this kid, he was running around with a BB gun, and he shoots Corey, and I swear in my it's true, shoots Corey, and I thought it was in the butt. I thought he shot him right in the duckus, and Corey said, no, it was his chest. He shot me in the chest. And I've never seen a guy run as fast as I could after a kid. You are so fast, Corey. It's incredible. The fastest guy around. You're incredibly fast. I go, God, I just never seen anyone run like that. So maybe that's why I did all those footwork drills, is because, it was incredible. Absolutely incredible. So you did catch him. You brought right up here. You said you got the gun and you put it behind, made his parents come get it. Pretty cool. Oh my gosh. Well, next, I've got to thank my family for being here today. My brother John, his wife Stacy. My brother John's a very good tennis player. You had to put up with me, John. 6 years younger, cocky little kid. I must have been a pain in the butt to be with. You are a great brother, great friend. Stacy, I love you. You're pretty cool. And thank you. You've been awesome, John. I love you. Next up's Dad. Hello, Father. How are you? You've had to put up with me. Yes, that was great. He was always pretending to read a book or be in the car when I was playing a match, but that car was always close to the tennis court. I knew he was watching. I know I gave your heart a few skips a beat the way I played tennis, but you were incredibly supportive with me. You kind of mellowed me out to kind of figure out what was really important, even if I lost. You are extremely organized. As when I went to a tennis trip, I wasn't going to add this story, but a tennis camp in Minnesota, and he packed my clothes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the crap I caught from the kids because I was very organized was incredible. John, you remember that? That was not great, but Dad, the most important thing that you taught me was my love for our love for Oklahoma football. So that was it's deep in my heart. Dad, I love you very much. You're my best friend. Thank you. Mom. Mother, I got a great story. My first summer right after state, I played in '86. It was I took a few weeks off went to San Francisco to play in a national tournament where I I looked at the draw with a buddy of mine. I go, who's this guy? And he goes, it wasn't Don Wilson, I swear. But I looked at the draw. I go, who's this guy? To my buddy, he goes, I think he's pretty good. So fine. And I look at him. I'm short. I'm 5'8". Well, now I guess I was told I was 5'7" by a doctor. I'm still going to show it I'm 5'8". So this kid was a few inches shorter than me. So we go out and we play, and there's a lot of people, a lot of interest in the match for some reason. I didn't get it. And I ended up losing the match, and Mom was inquiring why I played so poorly in a very nice way. It was a very nice, loving way how she said that. But so cut 5 years later, I'm drinking beer at Iowa State with a bunch of buddies, and I'm watching TV, and I'm gonna call someone. I'm just gonna call my mom after this match. I'm gonna call her. And my buddies go, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm gonna call her. I did. They shook hands. I go, Mom, do you see you won the U.S. Open? I did. I'm so sorry. I remember that match. I do. I remember it. It was Pete Sampras. I'm proud to say I have a really good loss here from Topeka history. Very good. Mom, you have had everything to do with my success. Everything. I can't talk long about her because I will get emotional, but she's every practice she was at, mainly because she thought I was going to get beat up. But yeah, that's true, isn't it? It's true. Absolutely the most dedicated mother you instilled this competitiveness in me, and I got it from you. I'm so blessed that I'm standing up here just because of you. So thank you. Okay, that's it. I'm no more emotional. Jack and Jarrett, my two boys, I'm sad they're not here. My oldest son is 22, graduated from Iowa State. He's in a snowstorm, probably having a couple adult soda pops at home. He's doing great. My youngest son, Jarrett, is at Iowa. He's the trader in the group. He's a Hawkeye. His birthday's tomorrow. He's probably having fun as we speak, but they're both tennis players. They're great kids. But the last thing I want to kind of say is this is the number 2 event that I've had this year so far. I'm sorry, this place is second. The number 1 event I've had is I got married in January. Audra, my new wife. Love you. Say I didn't forget. That's an inside joke. But, well, in conclusion, as I've mentioned, there's so many people here that have had so many wonderful things to do with how I am as a person. They've helped me along the way. I like to think that I'm a kind person on the court. When I teach people, I'm pretty understanding when someone's racket throws out there. And everyone here in Topeka wanted me to improve and to help my game. Their hearts were kind. And I'm so blessed to have grown up here in this city. And what Topeka tennis is doing right now is amazing. I'm really blessed, and I keep up to date on this city. And this place is gorgeous out here. I'm very thrilled. I'm very honored. Thank you, everybody, for this incredible honor. Sorry it went long, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right.
Great job, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Benson,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you.
Jeff Benson, welcome to the Topeka Tennis Hall of Fame. Our next inductee is Connie Robertson. Connie began her teaching career in tennis for the Topeka Parks and Recreation Department back in the 1960s. She spent 12 years managing Hughes Tennis Courts, God bless you, the outdoor hub of outdoor tennis in Topeka. She was part of the management team at Wood Rally Racket Club in the 1980s. She coached Hayden High School tennis beginning in 1983. She led Hayden Tennis boys and girls tennis teams to 14 and 15 state championship tournaments, respectively. She produced 7 4A state champions from Hayden High School. She was inducted into Kansas Tennis Coaches Hall of Fame in 2002. She was president of the Topeka Tennis Association in the 60s, 70s, and as recently as 2015. She organized and participated in providing tennis to inner-city children for the last 30 years. She served in various capacities for USTA Missouri Valley from 1999 through 2013, and she was inducted into the USTA Missouri Valley Hall of Fame in 2015. But perhaps her greatest accomplishment is that she coached her daughter Zebby to 3 state championships at Hayden High School back in the day. Now, presenting Connie Robertson to the Topeka Tennis Hall of Fame is Joyce Ritchie.
Connie has touched so many lives. She has always been positive and fun to be with. I met Connie when she was coaching the Hayden High School tennis team. I had started a kids group in the highest crime area in the city, and I spoke with Connie about coaching tennis as another outlet for these youth. For some reason, the group name was Tennis in the Hood. And Connie and I agreed to change the name sometime later to Holiday Park Kids Club. We were wanting the kids to know that with a positive attitude and as they grew, they could have a better life. And with Connie's tennis lessons, we grew from 67 youth to over 800 over 33 years. Our events included the police, the fire department, highway patrol, face painting, hair coloring, clowns, the police helicopter, magicians, and disc jockeys so the kids could dance. Our club had to be moved to the VA tennis courts on 21st and Gage so that we would have more tennis courts. We were so lucky with this event, even 501 was aware of this club, and they provided school buses to bring the children to our new location. Connie recruited tennis coaches from outside of Topeka, including from Missouri, Oklahoma, and Nebraska, to help with the growing number of kids that regularly participated for over 33 years. And let me back up to the high school lessons. Connie and the Hayden team were leaving a game in Emporia. Connie was driving the kids in her van, and the weather was getting bad. Connie was stressed out as she was driving, and she wanted to listen to the radio. Tom Lemon was in the back seat and had someone turn the radio down, unbeknownst to Connie. Tom started making a bulletin announcement telling everyone listening to be aware of the weather, and in particular for those driving on Highway I-35, to keep an eye out for a large white van with a crazy lady driving with a group of high school age kids. Connie finally figured out that the kids were playing a joke on her. They all had a good laugh and a safe ride home from the event. At another time, Connie was miffed that another student was wearing cowboy boots to practice. I received a phone call that this was not a good thing. I did speak to the student to let him know that this was not acceptable footwear. His response was that particular time he was taking photos for the high school yearbook. Sadly enough, I took Connie's side, and I hope that my son did not wear his cowboy boots again. These are some of the wonderful memories that our students still remember. These memories are some of the reason for Connie's other awards that I know for volunteering for the quarter of the year at Fort Riley, as adult volunteer for the year for the Warriors in Transition, tennis at the Clamshell with wheelchair and able-bodied folks, and also at the Prairie Band and Kickapoo Indian tribes. For me, and I'm sure Connie, the most touching things that came from coaching tennis was when those that Connie and I worked with for so many years would come forward and want to help us coach the new youth. Connie has touched so many lives in such a positive way that there's no way of saying thank you for all that you have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Ladies and gentlemen, Connie Robertson.
First, I'd like to thank Topeka Tennis Association for this honor. I'm deeply pleased to have been nominated along with this group. I'll get you, Jeff. Okay, and I thank my family for putting up with my tennis all these years. So many people here that I've known over the years. Tennis has been great to me. I've made a lot of friends, had a lot of fun, and I will come up with some stories. Jeff, you're first. Jeff likes to pray a lot on the tennis courts. I was doing a tournament out at Lake Shawnee. Now you know. Yes. And he kept asking God for help on the court. And so finally I called him over and I said, Jeff, you know, if you ever really need him, he's not going to know because you keep yelling at him all the time. And after that, he didn't say it anymore. So he behaved himself. I had Hughes, remember the old gray shack? And a lot of fun there. We had Meningers on down on one end of the Hughes courts, and one day this guy came running through the court screaming, help me, help me, help me. Can I use your phone? Help me. And he got on the phone and called and said, they won't let me have my clothes. I can't get away or anything. Well, we found out later that he could have gotten his clothes at any time and left, but I won't mention who he was. But apparently he needed to be there for a while. Corey, I can remember you. I was telling him earlier there was a little rock fight with his brother and my son and another little boy, and they were throwing rocks at each other, and Corey found out about it, and he was going to take care of it. But we got him calmed down, so he didn't go take care of all the kids. Kevin Hedberg, I think he tried to pull a few things on me, didn't always work. I remember the day they ran out in the middle of the courts yelling, everything's free, we don't have to pay, everything's free. That was stopped rather quickly. I don't probably know half the things they tried to pull on me that didn't go according to what they wanted to go. Then I remember working with Gary, and I'm sorry I can't remember the other gentlemen that we were working together on getting the old school, buildings that they used for schools when they had too many, that we got that out there and thought we were doing so great when we had that and had showers in it and everything, and it was cool. and we could go in and out of it. You wouldn't shut the door, and it wasn't ventilated by holes in the wall. And then we thought that was so great. And then came Crossover, and some of the people that really worked hard, and I wasn't one of them, I'm sorry to say, on getting Crossover courts, the 9 courts there, and they were greatly appreciated. We needed it, hated to lose Hughes, a lot of Jayhawks there, a lot of Jayhawk tournaments there. Now I'm going to go back a long ways. My sister, when she was playing the Valley tournaments and she played national, and believe it or not, at that time Kalamazoo had the girls up there. There was a main tournament here at Jayhawk for the juniors, and all the juniors would come and play at the Jayhawk. And then according to how they did was kind of how they were ranked at the Missouri Valley tournament for juniors, and from there they went on to nationals. But they didn't have the number of tournaments they have to go to now, which at that time it was very nice. They could play locally and then come here to play the Jayhawk, and then on to the Valley tournament, which was really nice. But the Jayhawk was really, really big at that time. And I know Butch and Cliff both played in it, and I can tell some stories on them too. But I learned to play tennis in St. Louis, grew up in Jeff City, and most of the people I had to play with were my age or a little bit younger, because the kids weren't playing there. I taught a little bit in Jeff City, and then when I moved to Kansas City, I worked with my uncle in Kansas City. Some of the better players that he had, I would go hit with them and help him out some there. And then I moved to Topeka. Now, I really consider Topeka my home because I've spent so many years here and so much tennis here. Hayden High School, we worked hard out there to get those tennis courts. We were kind of pushed into it. We were playing on the city courts at Hughes, and we were kicked out because we were not a public school. And so we had to do something. I've got pictures of the kids out there digging on the courts. We tied rebarb at night by car lights. And I had doctors' kids and lawyers' kids and everybody else out there, all the girls and everything were tying rebarb so we could get the courts. And then we get Wood Valley, which was really great. Believe it or not, I was one of the first members of Wood Valley. That was the greatest thing that ever came along. So we would have the indoor courts here, and worked with Kent for a short while. And then I was offered the job at Hayden to coach there, so I moved on to there, which I really enjoyed. And then I worked for the USTA, traveling the state of Kansas. But I think the thing I enjoy the most is working with the kids, like at the Prairie Band, Kickapoos, and now the Iowa tribes. I go up there once a week to those places to work with those kids. None of them are ever going to probably be great players, but at least I've introduced them to the game. At least they know a little bit of how to play, and some of them will go on and play later, hopefully. And then I've been working with the Warriors in Transition down at Fort Riley. First time I've ever really worked with adults that much, but it's a lot of fun. And we have both wheelchair players and able-bodied players. They play with each other. And I was trained with the PTR with wheelchair tennis and worked with, he's no longer coach, but it was the head coach of the men's team, a wheelchair team at one time. Kevin worked with my daughter and along at the country club and was a big help. And I just really have enjoyed all my years with tennis, and I want to thank everybody and for this honor. And I've really enjoyed it, getting it. It's great.
Thank you, Connie, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And I've been holding this for you since our membership appreciation event. This is from the Topeka Tennis Association to Connie Robertson, in grateful appreciation for your years of leadership and devotion to Topeka tennis.
Thank you. That's nice. Thank you.
Hold on. Congratulations, Connie, and welcome to the Topeka Tennis Association Hall of Fame. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for everybody for coming out. You've come from near and far. These people really deserve to be in our Hall of Fame, and we thank them for all they've done for Topeka tennis. And that really concludes our festivities for tonight. Please stick around for a while and enjoy each other's company, and we'll probably be breaking it down in a half an hour or so. So thank you, and God bless.